there a similar simplification strategy PMs can use in interviews to explain a complex, like a $1.5 million project, to a non-technical executive without losing their strategic impact?
Yeah, so I teach a variety of different structures or templates, or you can call them wireframes, that you can use that will simplify your delivery, your language. And storytelling is always a matter of beginning, middle, end. That's a linear structure that's very easy to follow. So all of the templates I teach are based on that 1, 2, 3 beginning, middle, end structure. But I would say, again, adding some kind of emotional content really helps. Success stories, testimonials, that's going to make your content less dry. You have to connect the numbers back to, again, things like project goals. The goals weren't about numbers, probably. The goals were probably around things about customer retention, right? Or customer acquisition.
Our guest today is Karen Schiff, a speech coach and the founder of WellSaid Coaching. She has spent her career helping high-level professionals, from those at IBM to Intel, from big FANG companies to professionals at startups, to master the art of clarity, presence, and persuasion. Whether you are a project manager trying to lead a global team, a candidate looking to stand out in a crowded interview, or a leader wanting to build a strong personal brand, Karen's unique approach to communication is a total game changer.
Those three things are going to make a strong first impression, because you can't just walk into a room and shake everybody's hand and give them a firm handshake and look them straight in the eye and do all those things that you normally do in the real world. So your first impression is going to be boom when you show up in your box.
Hello and welcome back to PMP with Prachi, the podcast dedicated to helping you master your project management and transition from a manager to a project leader. Today's episode is specifically for you if you have ever felt like your technical expertise was being overlooked because of your delivery wasn't quite hitting the mark. This episode is for you. Our guest today is Karen Schiff, a speech coach and the founder of WellSaid Coaching. Karen brings a powerhouse combination of skills to the table. She holds an MA in organizational psychology from Columbia University and has a deep background as a professional copywriter. She has spent her career helping high-level professionals, from those at IBM to Intel, from big FANG companies to professionals at startups, to master the art of clarity, presence, and persuasion. Whether you are a project manager trying to lead a global team, a candidate looking to stand out in a crowded interview, or a leader wanting to build a strong personal brand, Karen's unique approach to communication is a total game changer. Today, we are diving into how to crack the interview, the importance of how you speak rather than what you speak during the interview, and the psychological secret sauce behind a personal brand that actually sticks. So, Karen, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Prachi, for having me.
So, Karen, you have played different roles and now you coach leaders from different companies, from IBM to Intel. Before we dive deep, we would like to know something about you that is not common knowledge, and what drove you to start your own company.
Something that is probably not common knowledge is that I started out my career as an actress.
Oh, wow.
Yes. So I was a theater major at Northwestern University, and for several years after I graduated, I acted on stage and in television, mostly locally in Chicago.
That's interesting. That was really not a common knowledge, and I couldn't find it on LinkedIn or your.
I know. It's hidden from AI and from the web.
Okay. And I see you have your own company. Tell me more about it.
Yeah, so WellSaid Coaching is a coaching business that I launched back in 2017. So it's been almost a decade now. And it is the culmination of a career in communications. Now, whether that's been on the writing side as a writer for marketing and advertising agencies, or as a teacher and a trainer, which I've done at a variety of organizations, whether it's for profit or nonprofit. This all came together and culminated in around the year of 2017 when I finished my training in teaching English as a second language at UC Berkeley. I launched my business thinking I would primarily work on accent coaching and pronunciation for non native speakers. But Prachi, it quickly became apparent that people were coming to me and saying, people can't understand me. It must be my accent. And actually, it had nothing to do with the accent, it had everything to do with the communication style. So I quickly diversified my business, and now I teach both accent coaching and also general public speaking skills. My clients are mostly tech professionals in Silicon Valley because I'm also based in the Bay Area. But I also work globally and I work with professionals in finance, in healthcare, in education. You name it. I've had dog walkers, students, activists, the whole gamut.
Okay, interesting. So we will be talking about accent and how to manage global teams and all. But before that, could you share what was the biggest challenge you faced when you transitioned from a corporate role to being the face of your own brand? Like, and how did you get started with?
Um, for any sole proprietor, for any entrepreneur, when you're going to be working by yourself, because I don't have a team, it's just me, you are going to mourn the loss of your sales and marketing teams. Okay. When you work in a big corporation, there's people who are responsible for selling. Obviously, when you open up your own consultancy, your own coaching business, you're it. So you have to be responsible for all those basic marketing tenets, the four P's: price, product, place, promotion. It's all up to you. And that's a big challenge.
Yeah, absolutely. Because uh, if you go out in the market or if you go out to look at the companies which are offering what the services you need, you first go out and check their websites and check their testimonials. And it is very difficult to get those first few clients and customers uh, from just starting up for, especially for starting a business. So, yeah, that's a great thing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And one thing that's very helpful, I don't know if my experience is directly applicable to the project management world, but I found a niche. And anytime you find a niche, it's going to be a little easier. Now, you're going to have a smaller universe of total clients, but on the other hand, you're going to have less competition. So, having less competition at the beginning can be very helpful because people will find you more easily. And then you can start to build up your business with good reviews and more work. And then you can start to diversify and generalize a little more.
Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, that's a great thing you just suggested to people who are listening because uh, it's all about finding a niche rather than just starting a business, random business. So yeah, that's really uh, something which I would personally take away from this episode. Uh, we still have to talk a lot, but this is something which I think was really a gold nugget. So, yeah. And about the accent and global leadership you mentioned earlier. So, I know you train a lot of people from different countries and accents. It's often a challenge for people coming from a different country and culture to indulge with native English speakers, as you just mentioned. And as a leader, you don't have a choice, you have to deal with it, right? So, I want to ask you, how can a leader who has a strong accent or works with a team that does ensure that accent clarity never becomes a barrier to being seen as a competent high level leader?
Hmm. The most important thing about accents is clarity. and this fancy word we call intelligibility, which means my ability to understand you easily. So the goal around accent coaching is never to eliminate the accent. First of all, it's not necessary. And secondly, it's extremely difficult to do as an adult because of the way the brain is wired. I won't get into that. So, first of all, is set your goal. You don't need to lose your accent. And in fact, you may not need to do nothing. If people understand you easily, you're done. But if people are having a difficult time understanding you, then obviously that's going to be an impediment to any kind of leadership. So, how do you know if people don't understand you? Really, there's two easy ways. One is people are asking you to repeat yourself, or two, they're not doing that because people don't want to be rude, but maybe you're getting the lines, okay? The lines between the face where people are having to lean in and you have to notice that body language. Now, in terms of remedying the problem, um, again, don't worry about losing the accent. That's not the goal. It's just gaining some speech patterns that are going to be different than the speech patterns you use from your first language. And an accent coach can help you with this. They're going to focus on certain things like your pace and how much you're pausing and how much stress you're adding to your language. So typically when people come to me, it's that they're using a very fast, flat way of speaking. Hello, my name is Karen Schiff. I'm the founder of WellSaid Coaching, and today we're going to be talking with Prachi. Okay. Ba, 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 ba. And English, American English, is a very chunky language full of stress. Hi, my name is Karen Schiff. I'm the founder of WellSaid Coaching, and today I'm talking with Prachi. Okay, you can hear the difference, right?
Mhm.
So, um, know what your goals are. It's not to eliminate the accent, it's to acquire certain speech patterns that will make you much more easy to understand.
That's interesting. And that's what you teach because I haven't met anybody apart from you who's teaching accent clarity, right? So it's fascinating for me.
It's a
And
niche.
yeah, yeah, it is a niche. Yes, and I also know you. I've attended one of your workshops on interview cracking, so I know that you are also expert in uh, interview strategies and sharing those quick tips on that. So I wanted to know, how did you come up with that idea? Like, did you see people struggling with interviews, or how did you come up with the idea of sharing your tips and tricks for cracking the interviews?
It was a natural extension of public speaking skills. So I had these two silos, accent coaching and then general public speaking skills. And a lot of the reason people want to improve their public speaking skills is for the purpose of interviews. So again, it became a natural extension of what I was doing. Also, I really want to define public speaking because it's a term that can mean different things to different people. The way that I use it in my business is more the everyday speaking that you're doing at work, not the big TED Talks and, speaking at a conference in front of 500 people. So, doing that kind of group work where you're speaking to 5, 10 people is something we often do in interviews. And so, again, it was a natural extension of my offerings.
Okay. Okay. So we will be diving into the panel discussion and how to get over that anxiety. But before that, could you share the how does a person give their first impression when they enter the room? Now, actually, it's all virtual. So, how to make the first impression to the interview?
Well, okay. So, if you have a Zoom interview or some kind of interview online, there's a lot of really good videos on YouTube on how to look good online. So you want to make sure that you've done your preparation and you've framed yourself well, that you have lit yourself well, and that your audio is good. Those three things are going to make a strong first impression because you can't just walk into a room and shake everybody's hand and give them a firm handshake and look them straight in the eye and do all those things that you normally do in the real world. So your first impression is going to be boom when you show up in your box. So make sure, especially those three elements, framing, lighting, and audio, are all set to go right from the beginning.
Okay. And you mentioned about those things, but how about pre-anxiety interview? Like, uh, so that you actually genuinely walk into the room with that confidence that, I'm going to crack it.
Yeah. Um, I always refer my clients to two experts sources on this. And one of them is Amy Cuddy, Cuddy. She has a TED Talk about power posing, which is putting your bodies in positions of power, which psychologically make you feel more powerful and also give the impression that you're more powerful. So, doing some of those power poses before you uh log on into your interview is gonna have a psychological effect. So her name is Amy Cuddy, and I definitely suggest that your listeners check her out. The other person that I think is really good on this issue is a professor at Stanford University. He is a professor in the business school, and his name is Matt Abrahams, and he has a whole little book. It's not long. I'd say maybe, this big. And it's called, let me just think, Speaking Up Without Freaking Out. That's what it is. And he has a lot of practical activities in there and exercises and techniques for managing your nerves and managing the physiological aspects of what happens to you when you're nervous. So I think having his book on your desk and doing some of those exercises and doing some of your power poses before you log on is going to be enormously helpful. So you're psychologically ready and you're physiologically ready.
Okay, that sounds interesting, and I will go check it out. And I'll also put that in the description below, so people watching or listening to it can also go ahead and watch their TED Talks and get the inspiration from there. Uh, so yeah, we were talking about the panel interview. Um, Usually, what happens is when it's one on one, it's easier to communicate for most of the interviewees. But when it's a panel discussion, uh, when you see that people are losing interest, what subtle signs should we be looking for, and how can we pivot our delivery in real time to regain that control?
And again, Prachi, are we talking about a virtual interview?
Yeah.
Okay. It's hard, right? It's really hard. Number one, make sure you can see everybody. So, I'd rather have you be able to see everyone, even if they're tiny, than not be able to see somebody. So make sure you can see everybody. And then just keep an eye on body language. You might see people doing this, getting bored, I mean, it's not subtle usually when people are bored. And of course, it's the age of distraction, so you have to be conscious of, "I'm doing it now," kind of people looking down and doing this, because what are they doing? Checking their phones probably, alright? So they're multitasking, which means you don't have their full attention. So those are 2 key things that usually are dead giveaways that people are getting a little, "Oh." Um, in terms of what you can do, now this is tough because vocal delivery, the way that your voice sounds, is an automatic habit. It's like the way you sneeze and the way you laugh. So you can't, in the middle of an interview, think, well, I'm just going to change the way I laugh for the rest of the interview. Okay. It just doesn't work. If you've had coaching, then you'll know how to modulate things. But if you haven't, it's really hard. The only advice I can give is 2 things. Number 1, make sure that your answers have some kind of emotional content. And when I say emotional, I don't mean you're trying to make people cry. I just mean humanistic stories, things that testimonials, success stories, an anecdote that reaches down beyond numbers and dry content, because that gets people's attention.
Hmm.
Okay. Stories are more memorable than stats. The next little hack you can do is refer to people by name. Okay, people love hearing their own name. They always perk up. So you might be in the middle of an interview and maybe you ask me a question, Prachi, but there's 4 other people. Think about how you could reference somebody else. And then, Prachi, that's a great question. In fact, it's a terrific follow-up to what Peter just said. And then Peter goes, "Oh, me." Okay. And it might bring Peter back into the fold. Again, it takes a little bit of, talent to do this, but people love to hear their own name. So try to integrate that into your answers if you see you're losing somebody.
That's a great tip. I will definitely use that in one of my interviews. In fact, all of my interviews. um, so yes, talking about the stories. So most of my viewers or listeners are project managers. So as project managers, we often have stories about numbers, right? So we often get stuck in the weeds of that technical jargon. You teach different approaches in your workshops to simplify these complex scenarios in simple words. So, is there a similar simplification strategy PMs can use in interviews to explain a complex, like a $1.5 million project to a non technical executive without losing their strategic impact?
Yeah, so I teach a variety of different structures or templates, or you can call them wireframes that you can use that will simplify your delivery, your language. And storytelling is always a matter of beginning, middle, end. That's a linear structure that's very easy to follow. So all of the templates I teach use are based on that one, two, three, beginning, middle, end structure. But I would say, again, adding some kind of emotional content really helps. Success stories, testimonials, that's going to make your content less dry. You have to connect the numbers back to, again, things like project goals. The goals weren't about numbers, probably. The goals were probably around things about customer retention,
Mm-hmm.
right? Or customer acquisition. And even that's a little dry. It might be we wanted more happy customers. Okay? That's an emotional approach as opposed to we wanted to acquire 60% more customers in over Q2, whatever it is. Um, we wanted more happy customers. And here's how we were going to do it. And then the how you want to keep very high level because the non-technical people are going to get lost in the weeds. But if you can keep the goal high level and humanistic, and then you can also do that for the results. So of course, you want to stress numerically and statistically if you was, objectively what improvements were made, but again, try to connect those back to some kind of testimonials or success story.
Okay, that's interesting. So you talked about the linear method, but a lot of people talk about star method. So what's your take on that? What's the difference between the two, and which approach do you think is better and why?
There is no difference. It's the same thing.
Oh,
Star is based on a linear beginning, middle, end structure. The beginning is S, situation. The T and A are the middle, and the results are the end, beginning, middle, end. So it's exactly the same thing.
okay. Okay, that makes sense. So talking about the interviews and how to crack them, the most frequently asked question is uh, the biggest weakness. Tell us about your biggest weakness. So, how do you answer that? Yeah, because you're telling your own weakness. Uh, and how do you sound someone who is more approachable, coachable, and self aware?
Yeah. So with that kind of question, you need to learn to embrace it and not dread it because all humans have weaknesses. And so no one's trying to, it's not a gotcha question. If you take a defensive approach to it, or a sort of, I don't want to say a paranoid approach, but a concerned approach to it, you're sort of missing what's behind the question. What's behind the question is self awareness. And also, what are you doing to rectify that weakness? So it's fine to have a weakness. In fact, be glad because that means they're still trying to hire a human being and not, not just outsourcing your job to AI. They want someone who's human. So pick a weakness that you're currently working on. That's all. That's all they want to know is that you have self awareness to know that you have weaknesses and you have the initiative to address that weakness. So, for example, um, this is just a hypothetical. You work in customer service and you realize, Spanish is not a requirement for my job, but I get a lot of customers calling in and Spanish is their first language. And I would really like to be able to help them out and speak more in Spanish. So unfortunately, my Spanish is not very good. I took it in high school. It's been a long time. So I took the initiative to take Spanish classes and my Spanish is improving. All right. No one's going to fault you for having a weakness in a language. So that's just an example of picking something that is, not the end of the world and showing how you're working on improving it.
Yeah, and I also think that they are not asking this question to know your weakness actually. They're just trying to gauge how do you handle situations, or how do you respond to it. Like it's
Exactly.
that is more important than what you
Exactly. You
say.
don't want to have a defensive tone about it or oh, I don't have any weaknesses. Yeah, it's not realistic.
Yep. All right. Finally, I just wanted to ask you is if someone has a big interview tomorrow and only 30 minutes they have to prepare, what is the single most impactful thing they should practice to ensure they say it well?
Um, well, I know you just said the single most, but I'm going to give you two because the
Let's
first
go.
one is to find 30 more minutes. Okay. You don't want to shortchange yourself. If you have an interview, find 30 more minutes in your life between today and tomorrow. Okay.
Right.
That said, so when you start job hunting, you want to immediately prepare answers to very common questions. And of course, some of those common questions will be specific to your field, project management. But there are very generic questions like, why are you looking for a position? Why are you interested in this position? Tell us about the work environment that you prefer. Tell us about a time you failed. All of those you want to craft or draft answers to right away. And then you leave places for the specifics. So if you have those answers already crafted and you've prepared them, then if you get something pretty last minute like this, you can then just do a deep dive on the specifics of the company, the product, the mission, the leadership, whatever it is, and then fill your generic answers with those specifics. And then what you do with the other half hour is you practice them.
Huh.
Okay.
Okay, so be prepared, just don't show up unprepared.
Well, always, always.
Yes.
But if you've already got sort of your generics prepared, then when you get an interview last minute, it's more a matter, you're not starting from scratch.
Correct.
You've already laid the groundwork and now you can layer on the specificities.
Correct. Well, that was an incredible deep dive into psychology of how we speak and show up to the interviews. Thank you so much, Karen, for sharing those insights.
Of course. My pleasure.
So, from your time managing $1 million budget at multiple companies to your current work helping professionals find their voice and lessons today is clear. In the world of project management, what you know gets you the interview, but how you say it gets you the job. For all the project managers or anyone for that matter listening, I challenge you to take just one of Karen's tip, whether it's the storytelling arc or vocal voice cues we discussed, and used it in your next stakeholder management or an interview. Thanks for tuning in, and we will see you in the next episode. Till then, bye bye.